Red Dead Redemption 2 is a masterpiece, no doubt about it. But often there are times when this game leaves more questions than answers. Like, how did Micah get his little rat paws on the Blackwater money? Where's the McFarlane's barn? Why didn't we get to see the Blackwater heist? Where in the hell is Gavin? Above all, one particular instance that players have been unable to solve for the last 7 years has stuck with me to this very day. And that is, who was the rat that tipped off the law before the Scarlet Meadows train heist? There have been many theories that have been offered to explain exactly who this was, but I'd like to share my thoughts on who did it and why. Our first and most obvious suspect is the corn boy, Leviticus Cornwall. The dude just can't let shit go, and is the main catalyst for funding the Pinkertons' pursuit of Dutch and the gang. By this point, Dutch had already stolen from Cornwall twice. The prologue train heist initiated a relentless search from Cornwall as forewarned by Hosea, only to ignite his fury further by having John steal an oil wagon of his for a train robbery. Laborers from the factory could have alerted Cornwall of the theft through telegram, giving him an opportunity to assemble a posse of lawmen to escort the train's journey through Scarlet Meadows. This could be another way the modernization of society brought Dutch's power to its knees. Technology and other advancements like the telegraph assisting the law enforcement in a capacity that was never before seen or heard of. The old ways Dutch used to get by were changing fast. This was the somber theme the series carried through both Redemption games, the slow dying of the Old West and the birth of industrialization. Dutch's anarchic ideals and the rapid constriction of societies imposing rules and regulations led to the entire gang's downfall. A world free of consequence was ending, leaving no room for his kind. This is why Dutch was so against change. But let's just say maybe it wasn't Cornholio, then who else? Who else looks like a tattletale? Does anyone come to mind? I know a certain little do-gooder that looks just like the type. Just a couple feet away from where Mary Beth was spilling the tea stood a sickly, pathetic man that, spoiler alert, took out our beloved Arthur Morgan, Mr. Thomas Downs. A good tax-paying citizen like him surely wouldn't just sit back and say nothing if he heard something. Remember how he stopped Arthur from braining Tommy? He definitely follows the code of, if you see something, say something. Just before entering the store, you'll notice this little varmint attempting to scam passerbys on the street, clearly not far from where Uncle and Arthur were sitting. If he was inquisitive enough, he surely could have overheard the gang's conversation about hitting the train. We never learned exactly the source of who talked, but we definitely know it was someone, as it's revealed in a newspaper article shortly after the heist, that there was a tip-off sent in to the police. One might assume Micah. But the only issue I take with that is Micah was way over in Strawberry, in a completely different state in-game. So if not Micah, then maybe the next rodent in my opinion, and that is Thomas Downs. I've even heard people accuse Abigail of setting the gang up in this robbery, but knowing John was a participant, I just don't see that being likely. But let's give Thomas Downs the benefit of the doubt. Who else could be identified in the lineup? Let's take a look at our context clues and go from there. When Mary Beth approaches Arthur to inform him about the potential score, she enters the frame from Arthur's right. Around the corner of the town is a large farmhouse that she mentions to have snuck into posing as a maid.
I snuck into this fancy house. Acted like a servant girl. Usually works.
There's no one in that area that could have possibly suspected her except for one person. While the gang is in town, they certainly keep anything but a low profile, so it was only a matter of time before they'd be noticed. With this in mind, I believe it's entirely possible that Mary Beth was recognized by Mary Linton. She becomes aware of Arthur's presence in Valentine and writes him a letter requesting to see him. It's revealed she's staying at Chadwick Farm, presumably the same place Mary Beth received the heist information. After making out that it was Mary Beth, Mary Linton probably understood that she was scoping out the area. Once she knew they were after the train, Mary might have gone to report it to the law. But now the question becomes, why? Personally, I think Mary had more than enough reason. She wanted Arthur for herself, and perhaps in her mind, the best course of action to try and get Arthur back was to dissemble the gang. The gang clearly didn't like Mary, so I'd imagine the feeling being mutual. Jealous over Dutch having the final word over Arthur's life, she attempts to take him back forcibly. The only thing she wasn't anticipating was for Arthur's involvement in the actual robbery itself, which doesn't really make much sense as she knew how active he was in the life of crime. As badly as they wanted to be with each other, she always knew Arthur would choose the gang over her. So maybe this was a way she thought she could finally win him over, and then again, maybe not. So who else does that leave? Maybe someone led them on? Arthur was smart enough to know they were being unusually careless, so it could have been just about anyone in town. Even Sheriff Malloy figures out who Arthur is pretty early on.
Aha! Servant to Mr. Vandalin, I believe. This is Dutch's man. Let's send that gang a message.
But what about outside of the town? I mean, the spot they chose to hide Cornwall's wagon wasn't exactly in a remote area. There's a stable right next to it. With all that damn ruckus Sean was making, I wouldn't be surprised if the residents of the nearby farm ended up saying something. Who do you think set the gang up? Do you have your own personal theory? If so, let me know in the comments. In my own headcanon, I believe Cornwall was the most likely to have tipped off the dogs. By the time Arthur and John were setting up the robbery, Cornwall already had spies locate Dutch's gang pretty easily in Valentine and surrounding areas. The Pinkertons had already found Arthur by this point, so it's obvious they warned Cornwall or the Union Pacific of an imminent train or bank robbery in the area. And of course, as I mentioned already, John asking Arthur to steal an oil wagon belonging to the very guy that's paying the government to pursue them wasn't exactly the best of ideas. So much for that genius plan. And then Arthur wanted to act surprised whenever he got caught by the Pinkertons. Thanks for watching this little video, Red Dead freaks. If you have a suggestion for a video you'd like to see regarding Red Dead lore, or maybe something you've recently discovered that you've never seen before, let me know in the comments. Also, while you're at it, I'd like to ask what you guys think of the videos that have been produced in the last year. I thought I'd make a change from the traditional style of subtitle videos or short clips and make narrated videos, even though I absolutely hate listening to the sound of my own voice. Anyway, see you in the next one, home skillets.
Busiest girl on Nickel Night back in the day.